Hey guys, Jeff Wickham, Cable Community. Hey, I'm just going to share again a video. It's Truth Unedited. He covers a few things, but in the middle there's a good spot. It's 20 minutes long. I don't know. It's just going to share it this way. So, um, but for me, he really did speak to a little bit of the calling of Christians is again not just to be moral or this or that, but it's a part of that is to call to be persecuted. And if we're not persecuted, if there's not some ripples, it's not a good sign, a good indication, because Jesus says that his disciples will be treated badly for his sake. So I'm going to play this video. I hope it's interesting to you guys. And, but who knows what this guy believes on a lot of different levels. But I've watched a bunch of his videos and he definitely involves the Bible and he has an opinion. So here we go. I'm going to turn me off.
And you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. Mark chapter 13, verse 13. As we close out this wicked transitional year, something is resting on my heart that Father has compelled me to share. As I talk with those who declare a belief in Messiah, those that declare with their mouths that they believe in Yahshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, I have a feeling in my heart that many of us are not prepared for him. Being a follower of the way, what the world has labeled today as Christianity, has been so watered down that so many believers do not fully understand what their faith truly means to the world. They want all the good that comes from our faith, the love, the joy, the peace, salvation, but they don't want the struggle that comes along with being set apart. They don't want to bear their own cross. And why would they feel that they need to, when all this false doctrine out here keeps them blinded and not fully in an understanding of where they actually are placed in this world? We must read his word to understand our expectations for our lives. One thing that I keep feeling in my spirit when it comes to my close family and friends that are declared believers is that a majority of them are not ready and able to deal with the persecution and hate that they will receive from this world, as we are required more and more to be set apart from it. As we walk into this next chapter and see what 2021 has in store, one of the most important things that believers must do is live with proper expectations. They must understand where their faith will place them. They must understand how to identify the wolves in sheep's clothing. They must expect that the world will not respect their faith. They must expect to bear their cross. They must be prepared to be hated. So we need to talk about it. Let's begin. Okay, so when I say believers must be prepared to be hated, to those who are super churchy Christians that are under the spells of the prosperity doctrines or the other false doctrines that make believers conformists that are attached to this world, more than being separatists or being led to be set apart from it, being hated can sound very radical to them. So before I give more detail on this subject, let's talk about what our master says. You see, as we read the Gospels and live through a sound mind based upon his word, there is a clear message to those who bear the faith in Messiah. Yahshua himself spoke upon the subject and told us what to expect if we were true followers of his. So let's put our focus upon him and his word. In John chapter 15, Yahshua gives us the proper expectations that we should all live with. He said, "If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know him who sent me." John chapter 15, verses 18 through 21. Listen, the world hates Yahshua. This world, run by Satan, does not want Yahshua's truth to be lived out in. And this whole world agenda is about reducing Yahshua's light in the world and bearing the false angel's light instead. So if we know that the world hates him, Why does so many of us expect that the world will love those who bear his full truth? They won't. And this is one easy way to spot out the wolves in sheep clothing, like the T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteens, the Paula Whites of this world. If the world is embracing them, they are not serving our true master. Like Yahshua said, a servant is not greater than his master. So why would the world embrace T.D. Jakes or Joel Osteen more than they do Yahshua? And listen, I just use them as examples because they're the easiest to see. But this goes for many. It goes for many of the churches and pastors in your local area. But I don't want to get off point. Mentioning this is just something to point out in order to help you not be led by wolves. The most important thing for us to understand is that the world will hate us because it hates Yahshua. The world will not hear us and be on the same page with us, even if we are saying things that are true and make sense, because we are not of this world. The world is on a different path, being led by demons and spirits that are all about bringing satanic worship to the entire world. Those that are of this world will not understand what you're saying and doing because you are not with them, attached to the ways, direction, and mindsets of this world. 1 John chapter 3, verse 13, the apostle tells us, "Do not marvel, my brethren, if the world hates you." We should not be surprised that the world hates us, and we will have more enemies than allies in this world. Understand, it's not personal, it's spiritual. The world run by Satan hates the light in us and wants it to be diminished. It wants the power in us to be quenched and reduced. I started this video with the scripture found in Mark chapter 13 and also in Matthew chapter 10. Yahshua said, "And you will be hated by all for my name's sake, but he who endures to the end shall be saved." And this is the expectation that we all who are believers should have and live with as we approach these evil days. We must be able to bear our own cross and deal with the hatred that comes from this world. We must be able to stand in the truth, even if it comes with hatred from the outside world as well as from those closest to us. The reason I can see that many of my family and friends are not ready for our Father is that they are not able to deal with the hatred and rejection that they will receive from their family and friends. It's a cross that I see that they're not willing to bear. They won't fully protect their loved ones from the enemy because they don't want to be rejected or hated, or they don't want to have the hard conversations because they don't want their family and friends to look at them differently. They will not fully bear our Father's truth to the world because it's easier sitting on the sidelines than dealing with the persecution and rejection that comes with standing on his word and his truth. But if we as believers fully stood in the expectations that we will be hated and we must endure, it would give us more strength to deal with the world that hates our master. Sometimes we look at our struggles in the wrong way. None of us like being rejected or mistreated. But when we look at them from the right perspectives, it can build strength in us to deal with the real pressures of the world. Like for me, I have dealt with so much rejection from my closest family and friends that at the time did not make any sense. No one wanted to talk with me about how they felt. They just wanted to be angry with me. No one wanted me around because I saw the world so differently. There was just so much rejection that it was sad and hard to deal with. But I found comfort in these scriptures because I knew it wasn't about me, but about him. It was spiritual. And from dealing with that rejection and being set apart, I am now stronger in being rejected and not letting it mold me through fear and my flesh. So I feel so much stronger in dealing with and rejecting this world because I went through that training early on. I shared that small testimony because I know it is the same for many of you. You have dealt with rejection and hatred from your family and friends, maybe at work or school, and didn't understand it at the time because it just felt personal. But it really was, in fact, spiritual. If through those trials you stayed faithful to our Master and did not conform because it was easier to do, you were being trained in being faithful to our Father during trials, and now you are stronger in being ready for dealing with the world as you have to reject its ways and direction. The truth and reality is that the trials that you actually had were in fact a blessing because you were built up in strength to deal with these last days. We are about to move into one of the most satanic holidays of the year. Christmas is next week, and the majority, including most Christians, are ready to celebrate this wicked day and call those of us who reject the satanic tradition as radical and actual haters of God. They want to say that we are actually enemies of the gospel and doing more harm to his kingdom than they are. I can't tell you how many people in my time have tried to refer to me as a Pharisee or legalistic. Ironically, they really didn't really know what any of those things actually were, more than an idea of it. But that's not the point. The point is, it takes a requirement of strength to be able to stand against these world currents and be set apart. To go against the world currents, even though everyone else that you know is standing for them and believes that disobedience is justified. People will hate you for standing against the lies of this holiday. And for many, though they understand that this day is a false, man made pagan tradition, they do not bear the strength to stand on this truth fully. Some even know that they won't celebrate it, but don't have the strength to stand on the full truth with their family and friends that do. You cannot live on the sidelines and not fully live and stand on his truth. Listen, as we move along within this world, we will have to stand out and be separated. Those who hold on to the faith and endure will be hated. Now get this. It won't come in the name of hating Yahshua or Jesus. The majority won't admit to hating Christians, at least in the beginning. They will move in an agenda of just hating our standards and our truth. And as long as we stand in them and do not waver, we will be hated. Just look at the world today. We're seeing much of this happening right now, when just quoting scripture can be looked at as hate speech. Today, it's not tolerated to speak against same sex relationships without it being considered hate speech and being banned. There is no tolerance for these views in this world. If you stand on it, the world will hate you. Are you strong enough to deal with that? The truth found in the Bible, that is the faith that we live through, is not accepted today. The world does not want this truth. If you stand on it, you will be rejected. YouTube deleted my video on the vaccine, calling it medical misinformation, though I was using their sources to provide my information. By the way, I've placed that video on my website so you can review it again and also share it with others. But the point I'm making is that standing against their narratives is looked upon as dangerous. Are you prepared to deal with the rejection from the world when rejecting the solutions, answers, and their ways? The world is actually leading with the narrative of trust science over God, which is actually a long time battle that has been played out over centuries, but is right now at the biggest battle of its time. Listen to the scientists. This is where you have to choose your faith or choose their science. And the worst part is if you look to stand on your faith, they want to label you dangerous as an enemy of humanity that is not protecting their neighbor. Remember, Joe Biden said this just about the mask in one of his town halls before the election. And it's, look, I view wearing this mask not so much protecting me, but as a patriotic responsibility. All the tough guys say, I'm not wearing a mask, I'm not afraid. Well, be afraid for your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, your neighbor, your coworker. That's who you're protecting having this mask on. And it should be viewed as a patriotic duty to protect those around you. Imagine the backlash when people are saying this about the vaccine. Imagine the backlash for those that are not willing to be a part of their solution. Are you willing to be hated? Another point, the world is leading to a point where all religions are claiming to worship the same God, just by different names. Those who stand on the truth and say that there is only one way and only one true God, they will be hated. Are you willing to be hated for standing on this truth? The world is gearing up to have a complete lack of tolerance of those who stand on biblical truth. And it is at this time that believers must truly be ready to be hated and stand out. We don't stand out in our truth using their same methods and tactics of hatred, anger, and aggression. No, we stand immovable in our convictions. Let the Holy Spirit guide us as we trust in our Father for strength. We must look back to the first apostles and the early church and gather their strength and the convictions that they had. During their time, that Roman led pagan world hated the first church and their stance on only one God. The church was persecuted, fed to lions, burned alive, attacked, just severely and harshly dealt with. If they lacked faith and conviction, we would not know of our faith today because it would have been squashed. Just another movement that lost its momentum. But the early church was strong and was willing to be persecuted and hated for his namesake. And in the end, Rome was forced to try to infiltrate rather than use a hard hand because the hard hand didn't work. This is the faith and strength that is required. We must be ready to be examples of our faith and stand fully in our convictions and not be steered by the direction that this world is headed and the threats that it will make against us. Here's the thing that I want everyone to recognize. We see all the propaganda that the world is setting up, all the intolerance they have for people against their certain agendas. But in reality, this is all a setup for a direct attack and intolerance of everything that surrounds our faith. The world is gearing up to hate our faith and everything we stand on. Unfortunately, as you grow stronger in your faith, you are becoming their enemy. As you separate from their ways, their answers, their solutions, their mindsets, their politics, their monetary systems, their praise of this coming false leader, etc. As you separate from all of this and stand on your foundation and do not waver, you will be hated. Our love for the people of this world and their souls will be a reason for their hate. I have someone that I was always close to that has said that she shares our faith. But as I grew more in the word and not religion, I began to talk to her about my convictions. And instead of her loving the discussion about our Father and His Word and His ways, she would just say, I feel judged. Every time I talk with you, I just feel judged. And at this time, we aren't able to have a relationship because she wants me to hide my faith and my feelings. And it's not just something I can do. If I see a fire, I'm going to tell you that it's there. If I see an attack, I'm going to warn you. If I see danger, I'm not going that way, and I will tell whoever else is around me not to go that way as well. And living like this, when it is founded on our Father's ways and His Word, will turn people away from you. You may be able to deal with it from the outside world, but when it comes from your family and friends, it may be a tougher pill to swallow. Do not let your family and friends become idols for you, that you place them in pleasing them above pleasing our Master and standing in His truth. The world teaches that Christ is bringing the world together. There is a common theme that says that Jesus just wants to unite the world. And those that are against that idea don't even know their own faith.
And I tweeted out that my Catholic children will be attending Pride events, as this Catholic will. And my faith always taught me, what would Jesus do? Yes. And I know Jesus would be attending that Pride parade with Pride. And I also with Pride.
That's the narrative I hear today. That it's all about love. But Yahshua has said something completely different. During this time, faith in Him is not bringing unity in the world, but division, bringing separation from the world and its ways. It's the major separation of this world. These are the only two sides that currently matter. Those who are with the world and those who are with Yahshua. That's the separation.
Jon Ossoff lies to hide his liberal agenda, but we know Ossoff is embracing socialist Bernie Sanders. Worse, Ossoff criticized COVID relief while his family took up to $1 million. Jon Ossoff, too many lies, too radical for Georgia.
In Matthew chapter 10, verses 34 through 39, he says this clearly. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemy will be those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who finds his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will find it. I don't think it could be any clearer than that. Your enemies may not only be just strangers in the street, not just the blatant wicked men and women everywhere that do not hide their hatred for our faith. It can also be in your households, within those that do not fully share the faith and are more comfortable living in their lies than coming into the truth. Your conviction and strength is a deterrent for them, and it can produce anger, hostility, and resentment from them because you are willing to do things that they will not. The thing is that they actually feel Father tugging at them, but they are still rejecting Him. So they will hate you and not stand with you. They will betray you. It is something you must live with and understand. It is not personal, it's spiritual. Pray for them, but you cannot physically force yourself into a spiritual division. You must stand on the word and use the proper weapons of our warfare, which are not carnal and from the flesh. Listen, In the end, I just want true believers to have the right expectations and understand that the world is coming for them. The narrative is becoming more clear that if you do not stand with their solutions, you will be hated and outcasted from the world. You must know that this is coming and be ready to deal with it now. Do not let it be something that catches you off guard because you can fall into a trap that forces you to conform. Understand you are a believer that is bound to the Most High, and you have already won. All you must do now is endure. So as we move on into these more turbulent times, grow your faith, stand in your convictions, trust in our Father, believe in Yahshua, do not live in fear, pray for your enemies, guard your heart, live through his word, and know that though you are hated by the world, you are truly loved from the Most High God. And this is a love that will never leave you. Wrap yourself up in it and endure till the end. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share it with others. If you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Elohim willing, I upload every Friday. Don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com.
Hey guys.
If you do not see me on YouTube, you can find me there.
I think thoughtful, a lot of production, sort of shares from his heart of his own experience. I think this is sort of one of the simplest things to talk about. I mean, there's a few of those things about our witness and the rest of it, but the idea of, it should be create persecution and division and the rest of it. I mean, it's unavoidable. That's what Jesus says. So if somehow our faith is hooked up with having positive relationships with everyone, I don't think that's the way. Because there's people around us that need, that need us, that need someone who cares to speak boldly about things, even if it's just questions. Well, how is it that you're aiming for a good name in the world, the business community, or you're well loved or liked or popular, when that doesn't seem the way? I know someone who ends up dealing with a lot of overtly ungodly people, but still has good relationships. And I guarantee you it's because the gospel's not being preached. You think, well, that's not consistent with the job. The job, that's not what, you take a job, you got to respect your job. Well, I've heard old school preachers that I really appreciate say that, Yeah, it's true. But I don't think it's as simple as that. And I'm not even sure it's true. I don't know how much that's true. I think if you're telling someone ignorantly to just go and be a jerk to everybody, well, that's obviously not right. But if it means that you're not going to share your faith with people around you, or even then I don't know, if that costs you your job sharing your faith, that seems like probably the right thing to do. And you're like, well, what about my family? Or what about, I couldn't pay my bills, etc. Well, is that, again, if that's the first thing that you think of, it tells you what's primary in your mind. And that's this world. And if this world is your principal thing, that's the thing that we got to get off of, right? We got to get off of that juice. So, I don't know, food for thought. God bless. And if I find the control to get out of here. Anyway, another thoughts, another words from a different person. All right, God bless.